Hey Danielle.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Doing well. Hanging in there. It's
Yeah, right.
super cold here this week, but it is almost spring, right? I think daylight savings is this weekend.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's freezing here too. I'm over it. My kids were talking about how March is coming in like a lion and they're hoping that it goes out like a lamb, and then they're explaining why that saying makes sense, which I was impressed with actually, and it's true. So hopefully
I
it
love
goes out like a
that.
lamb.
That's so cute. I know. You're like, well, could it come in with some warm weather? I
Yeah.
mean,
They're like,
is
well,
that
these
too much
are
to
soft
ask?
and warm and fuzzy, so we hope it goes out like a lamb. I'm like, we totally do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly. I
I
know.
love that.
So we have a little bit longer to push through, but I am so happy to get a chance to chat with you for a second because a common question that keeps coming up between clients and then also just in our group is like prebiotics and probiotics. Can you shed some light on what is the difference between them, and then why do we need them, or do we need them? And just give us
Yeah.
a insight on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is definitely one that's confusing for a lot of people. I think there's so much talk around probiotics. I think more people understand what that is rather than the prebiotic. I would say yes, they're both necessary. And I always encourage to get prebiotic from actual food. So prebiotics in general are the non-digestible parts of foods that go through and they basically ferment in the large intestine, also known as the colon. And that's where when they ferment, that is actually used as food for your beneficial gut flora. So prebiotics are basically just, again, it's that part of food that is non digestible. It goes into the large intestine to your colon where it ferments, and then your good, healthy beneficial gut bacteria, they actually feed off of that and they get stronger. They can repopulate and do their job. So it is really important, but the best source, again, is just getting it through food. I think a lot of people will see, like, oh, there's prebiotic fiber and, other stuff that you can buy off of the shelf. And I don't really think that's the best way to get it. It's just ingest, several of these foods and then you'll be good to go. So, prebiotics can be found in onions and garlic, in artichoke, in the skin of apples. So, like making sure you're eating the whole apple, you don't have to peel it. In beans and chicory root, and then also in cherries as well, like in the skin of cherries. So, those are kind of like the really, I don't know, some easy ones that
Yeah.
are not too hard to remember.
Does it matter
Um,
if you cook, does it matter if you cook the onions and garlic or?
so I would say yes and no. They serve different purposes at different times. So yeah, I mean, I'd rather still have you get them either raw or cooked. If you are struggling with like a cold, or maybe you're starting to feel kind of sick, then it would be better to consume those two raw. Just because they have actually an enzyme when they are raw that once chewed and then ingested into the stomach, it will actually act as an antibacterial or an antimicrobial. So if you are starting to feel sick and whatever, it's like still this time of the year, your kids are sick or something, then yeah, if you can stomach it, eat those two raw. I know they're kind of harsh. But if you can't, then absolutely cook them and
Okay.
still get that food in your belly. So it's kind of, those two are like yes and no, but for the other ones, you could do either one for
Okay.
sure. So you can like cook down the apple, you can cook down your banana, or you could get a plantain, which is, the cousin to the banana, same thing. Or you can eat them raw. I mean, you wouldn't want to eat a plantain raw, but you can eat the banana and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a good question. The goal too is to at least get 2 tablespoons of that each day. So that really is enough to give, it's enough food for your beneficial gut bacteria to feed off of. So it's 2 tablespoons of any of those foods each day. And that's really their purpose. So that is what the prebiotic is. So it's not necessarily that it's a bacteria itself, like as we're going to talk about the probiotic, but it will turn into that, fermented food that the good bacteria can munch off of and get healthy and grow. So it still serves a purpose. Your probiotics are what we've been talking about. They are live bacteria.
Bacteria.
Yeah, they are live bacteria. They are in your gut. They are in the large intestine, and they are there to really, I mean, they just serve a whole host of purposes. Um, in addition to your good probiotics, you also will still typically have like what we called commensal, bacteria that's in your gut. So that may be the guys that are like starting maybe to overgrown, but they're like in the midline. And so your good probiotic, these healthy bacteria that you want to have a lot of, they will keep those guys in line. You still do need like some, I hate saying like good and bad, but some of, the not the not best bacteria, because they still do serve a purpose in your body. So you wouldn't want to completely like eradicate everyone, because everyone does have a purpose and they all fall in line. But the goal with the probiotic is to make sure you have more of that good gut bacteria so that they can keep everyone in check. So yeah, so it's really, those guys are pretty fun. A fun fact is that everyone is supposed to have about 2.5 pounds of bacteria in your gut. Yeah. So if you were to weigh them, that's how many you have. And it's it's billions of microscopic gut bacteria that you have. So they are very important. They play a huge role in everything from proper weight management to obviously your immunity, but really to keeping your gut just in check and regular. So they can, support you with constipation, with diarrhea, just with like regular, just going every day, like just keeping you regular in general, is a really good part of that. And the biggest thing I would say is keeping your immune system healthy. So anytime like you're traveling, or again, like we just talked about, being sick, or like your kids are sick, that's really like an essential time to be taking a probiotic. It is probably one of the few supplements that I would say to always have on hand.
Okay.
And there are so many different kinds of probiotics out there. I feel like that could be a totally separate
Yeah,
discussion.
actually, we should dive into that in a separate, just like kind of like
Yeah.
you could almost tier them. I know that, when it comes to probiotics, the one thing I've talked to a person about digestion, a doctor with Anna a couple years ago, and she said like kefir, or my kids call yogurt drink, is like one of the best things because it
Yeah.
has live
Absolutely.
bacteria.
Yeah, you totally, yep. So anything, that is, yeah, fermented yogurt, which is great. And that is a really good way to get probiotics in. Other things like kimchi, sauerkraut, also super beneficial. Beet kvass, which is in a drink. It's like you'll see it as like a shot, but that's really, really good also for promoting healthy gut bacteria growth. Also things like cashew yogurt, like really high quality, like Forager is one that I usually get. But any type, fermented items.
Fermented items. And now the labeling has the
I would
labeling.
say though it's struggling already. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry.
You good?
I was just gonna say the labeling on like this has live bacteria has improved,
Yeah.
so people can really like look for that if they're.
Yeah, I would definitely, yeah, and like all of that is really important for sure. And but for a lot of people, you still probably do need a supplement, because most people are really deficient in their good gut bacteria. Because truthfully, like if you've ever taken an antibiotic, so even if you were treated like a lot as a child or an infant, that still has hindered your gut bacteria over time, because honestly, you probably didn't replace it unless, your parent was giving you probiotics at that time. So that's really, most people, from that, they've already been deficient for decades. So yeah, I would definitely encourage, obviously those whole food forms are amazing,
Yeah.
but then probably looking for a really good quality, probiotic supplement would really help you out as well. And like I said, there are so many different kinds. So maybe next week we should talk about that and a
That's
couple of
great.
the brands that I recommend, because different ones work
Yeah,
better
that's
for
super
people.
overwhelming. And when it comes to supplements, it's like so often
Yeah.
I'll be so overwhelmed, I'll just not do any because I'm like, I don't want to buy a junky one, but I also don't want to spend $50 on something that I don't know if that's good or not. So
Yeah.
that would be helpful. Let's definitely dive into that for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I think but yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Anything fermented, is going to really help populate that good, healthy probiotic gut bacteria. So yeah, the prebiotic is going to feed your gut bacteria. The probiotics, those are actual live bacteria. So prebiotic is just the food that feeds your good gut bacteria. So it's not actual bacteria, which I think people kind of get confused about.
right. I think that, yeah, that's super helpful. But I think too, if you're looking for like an easy place to start with pre and pro, so what you're saying is like if you did onions and garlic or apples and made sure you had some of that each day in your diet, and then you even got something if you weren't quite sure about kimchi or sauerkraut, but the kefir milk, which is an amazing, it tastes, my kids think it tastes like Danimal, which is, just the
Yeah,
yolk
that's
cream.
great. Love that.
But
Yeah.
it does have a lot of sugar in it, so you gotta watch out if you are gonna try that, not you, but, like, if you
Yeah.
are
Right.
listening and gonna try that because, there's a lot of added sugar in it to make it taste good, because otherwise it's pretty tart. So I
Right.
take and buy a bottle of plain and a bottle of flavored, and then I mix them just to
Oh,
cut
good.
down. But, I mean, my kids drink it every day, and so even just, like, the apple and that is enough to,
Yeah.
like, get you started, and then we can deep dive next week into, some good brands that you can trust, that you know what you're getting and you know that
Yeah.
you're getting the live
Yeah.
stuff.
And
Okay.
even too, and the kimchi and the sauerkraut, I just want to say you only really need a forkful. You don't have, like, I think people get nervous. I have to eat like the whole jar. You only need just a forkful too for that. So
Yeah,
it's not, and
yeah,
same with like the kefir, like it won't kill you. It's like, yeah, it's a little
right.
tart, but it won't kill you. Just a
It won't kill
forkful.
you. Yeah, you just need oh, that's so good to know. Yeah, you don't need to, like,
Yeah.
sit down with this big bowl and, like, eat
Yeah.
that
You
for
totally don't. Nope.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yep. So those are just
Yeah.
some simple ideas. But yeah, definitely if anyone has any other questions or this was confusing, let us know and I will clarify even
Yeah.
more.
No, that was amazing, and, I appreciate that, but yeah, definitely, as you know, you guys can reach out to Danielle and just, like, deep dive into what your life looks like if you need a little more
Yeah.
support in this, or you think you could really benefit from talking about how this could help, and then next week, we'll talk about some brands you like and
Yeah.
make sure that the brand you're taking is
Yeah.
a good one. Yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome.
That sounds great.
You
Thank
know?
you.
Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. See ya.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.